There were 280 pressures in the game. He had 281 pass attempts.
Is that a record, 280 pressures in a game?
Yes, it is. That's a record. What was it, like 35 pressures?
36 pressures on 44 dropbacks is what I've written down.
It's insane. We've seen, though, this movie before. I mean, the Cleveland game is probably the worst game I've ever seen as far as the jailbreaks are concerned. Justin's first start. That was the most egregious game plan I've ever witnessed in my Bears fandom.
They actually, in the first quarter, it didn't feel like a jailbreak. They actually, now you got me. Caleb started 5 for 5 for 55 yards. Balls coming out. I mean, it looked different.
Looked night and day.
And then it deteriorated from there.
This game reminded me of the game that I was at in Detroit on Monday Night Football several years ago, where Cuddy was running for his life. Do you remember that game? Tirico did that game as well. And Cutler just showed you how tough he was. And Cutler played better in that game than Caleb played yesterday. But he was hit nonstop. He was beaten up. And if you're a Bears fan, it's the last thing you want to see a rookie quarterback endure in his second game, or any time really, but especially for your second time. And the one thing that I just kept hearing in my head, and I do like Ryan Poles. I think the work that he has done in the big picture is better than the bad stuff, much better. But there are lots of blind spots here. And the words I kept hearing in my head was break the cycle. Ryan Poles has said numerous times, it's time for the Bears to break the cycle with the quarterback. We're going to break the cycle, and we're finally going to get this right. We're going to do the process correct. And I'm always talking about the process. But when you send your quarterback out there in his second start behind that offensive line, behind guys that you deem as solutions, especially in the interior portion of that offensive line, and like I told you, I don't believe that they have more than one solution really on that entire offensive line. I don't think 4 out of the 5 guys are here to stay.
Jury's out on 4 out of the 5.
Like they have to rally for sure. Like Nate Davis, if I'm the coach, I would not play Nate Davis again.
Matt Pryor, grab your helmet.
The only way Nate Davis plays again is if he's the last healthy guard. That's the only way Nate Davis plays again. I don't cut him because I'm still paying him, and I don't gain anything strategically by cutting him, and I need him for a body just in case of emergency. But he doesn't get to play again. And what they've done at the center position, knowing that the center position is the guy who sets the protection, who is your security blanket for your rookie, who can grow with your quarterback. And with what they've patchworked this thing with Cody Whitehair, with Lucas Patrick, with what he did before with cutting guys, this is what your plan was at center? That's not breaking the cycle. And that's what infuriated me the most, Waddle, watching that game yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, your fears, your concerns are validated when you see what transpired. I don't think you could sit here and say, well, I expected 7 sacks. I mean, here's part of the statistical rundown as well. The Texans blitzed on 42% of the pass plays, 12 pressures, 5 sacks. Caleb completed 14% of his passes under pressure. The blueprint is out there now. This is what teams are going to do. So you better have a solution to it. When people were setting lofty expectations of 11, 12, 13 wins, and we all kind of got giggly about it, the one concern that everybody had to have had was their interior offensive line. I mean, this is nothing new. This is a problem. This is why I've said now for months, if I can see it as a goofball, I struggle as to why they don't, because there has been so much more good than bad that has come out of there. It's not a straight line. I mean, there have been mistakes, but to think that this is the right way to go about getting your rookie quarterback, who was the first overall selection, to get him revved up and set and going and to start his career is just, it boggles the mind. Now, look, these are two tough assignments. Against the Titans, you had two monsters on the interior. Against the Texans, you have two elite pass rushers on the outside. But that's life in the NFL.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say.
I mean, like this is, you're going to see guys, when you face the Vikings, you may not know their names, but they're going to be in your kitchen because Brian Flores is going to bring the heat.
Yes.
Like, this is life in the NFL. And when you prove that you struggle with some of this stuff early in the season, guess what? Everyone's going to copy the game plan. And you better have a solution for it. And the first solution has to be everybody has to cinch up your belts and be better. You can strategically change some things. But where's your hope level that Coleman Shelton's going to be able to really secure the center of the line in a bull rush?
He's a journeyman. We knew this. We knew the Rams were finished with him. They were done. And the reason he signed here was he had familiarity with the offensive coordinator. The same game plan they ran with Lucas Patrick and Luke Getsy.
Yeah.
And he did it again. That didn't work. So what did he do? He needed the sequel. He's like, okay, let me get the old center and I'll bring him in and I'll trade for, again, the Ryan Bates guy who didn't play he played 20 snaps all of last year with the Bills.
Correct.
This is a player who played 20 snaps for the Bills last year and is a guard in the NFL. And he thought he could be your center. He hasn't played center really in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then now we find out in Biggs' article that he may have been damaged goods with an arthritic shoulder, and that's what he's on the injury report with. He's on injured reserve.
Well, you've got a left guard now that is in a contract year and is not playing to the point where you would want to be giving him a big contract.
No, Tevin Jenkins has not been well.
Good. Your center is who he is. It's the reason why, as you mentioned, Les Snead and Sean McVay have Super Bowl rings and a veteran quarterback and hopes of getting back to the postseason after they went to the postseason last year and decided to move forward at that position. And your right guard has proven not to be a reliable player now for a year plus. You can't say this is a surprise. If it's a surprise up there, you got a bigger issue because everyone could have seen that this was potentially an issue. And I think the thing that, the reason why it's such a emotional response to this is you've got a young quarterback and this kid's mature and he's got a ton of talent. But even really good young quarterbacks who have a ton of talent and are mature can be negatively affected by stuff that happens to them early in a season. And I think that all of the beatings of the game, they accumulated, and you saw him late in that game in the fourth quarter start to eject the pocket, maybe a little bit prematurely on certain plays. His accuracy was affected. His eyes are starting to come down.
Yeah.
That's all stuff. That's all stuff that ultimately can get the best of even the most talented young players.
He's been bearsed in game 2, and they were supposed to break that cycle. And it only took 2 games for that to happen. And that's what I'm most mad about. Look, there are a couple throws Caleb certainly could be better on. Yeah. But when you have no run game, when you have no pass blocking ability, how much could a rookie quarterback on the road do in his second game? Like, that's asking a lot. I said the same thing for Justin Fields when he went to Cleveland. I said the same thing for Mitch. I've said the same thing for all these quarterbacks in their rookie years when they've mishandled them. Let me give you a player A, player B. You like player A, player B, don't you?
Who does?
Mel, you like a player A, player B? I know Carmen does. He's in his car. He's probably listening. These are 2 quarterbacks, obviously. Player A. Let me just give you the basics. He's thrown in 2 games, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. 274, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Player B, 267 yards, so just 7 less yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Player A, player B.
Player B is Caleb.
Player B is Caleb.
Player A.
274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Mahomes.
It is not Mahomes, no.
Player A, I was going to say Baker Mayfield, but he's got more touchdowns than that, doesn't he?
And I think he's got more yards than that, too. You want it? Accomplished quarterback who by the way,
Josh Allen.
Who had one of the best rookie seasons, if we're going like.
Oh, is it CJ Stroud?
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's numbers, 274 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. You want to know 2 of the biggest differences in stats that I didn't give you? Justin Herbert has been sacked twice. Caleb Williams has been sacked 9 times. Stat number 2, Justin Herbert's offense has 395 yards rushing in 2 games. They're averaging nearly 200 yards on the ground per game at a 5.6 yards per carry clip, and they have scored 2 touchdowns. Caleb has been sacked 9 times, and his rushing attack has gone for 155 yards in 2 games at 3.5 yards per clip. You see the difference?
Well, I do see the difference. And part of the difference is the Chargers have 3 first-round picks on their offensive line.
That's my point here, is they protected him. They've blocked for the run because they have the ability to do this. They have the support. The Bears don't have that. The Bears can't run the ball. They can't protect him. The Chargers have invested in the offensive line.
They have 3 first-round picks on their O-line. They have a 3rd-round pick from 2019, and they have their center is actually a player that was drafted in 2018 in the 6th round from Baltimore. But they are a stout offensive line. Rashawn Slater is one of the key components of that offensive line. He was the kid from Northwestern, right?
Yes. So that's what drives me crazy. 395 yards rushing for Jim Harbaugh's team. 155 yards rushing for Matt Eberflus's team, who wanted to run the ball. They couldn't run the ball yesterday. What do you want the kid to do? You can't run the ball. They're not buying play action like Yurko was talking about. You can't protect him. He's getting the ball out in what?
Fairly quickly. Top 10 in terms of time of getting the ball out.
So what are they expected to do? You paid a running back. He can't rush for 2 yards per carry. That's why I'm most angry. It's 2 games, but those are some warning signs right there.
Well, I mean, it's also how they've decided to build their team. You know, when you look at the draft, what did they? What we decided to take Rome Odunze at 8 as opposed to an offensive lineman,
at 9,
which is fine if in fact you've got a solution via free agency and another route to actually secure your O line. I mean, some teams they deploy their assets in different ways, as we just showed you. The Chargers have 3 first-round picks on their O line.
They did draft Darnell Wright. I'm getting worried that he could be good, but maybe that's it. And you pass Jalen Carter for him. Ben in Lakeview, you're on ESPN 1000. What's up, Ben?
Hey, guys. How we doing?
We're good.
Just kind of, I want to start it off by saying, the Caleb front, I'm not selling any of the Caleb stock. I still believe in him. I still know he's going to be good. Hope he's going to be good. I guess, what is on my mind is the small little bit of stock I had left in our head coach. There's been a couple things, and Silvy, you were talking about breaking the cycle, and I know you talked about this a lot in the offseason, was just getting on the same timeline and getting Caleb an offensive coordinator. You look around the league, I mean, Matt LaFleur obviously won this week with Malik Willis. You just look around the division, you have Kevin O'Connell calling plays, and you just look at some of the pervasive issues that we've seen time and time again with the clock management. You had a bad timeout in the 4th quarter yesterday. You talk about being 2 for 7 on challenges, and then he comes into the press conference and says, we have a great process here.
Yeah.
If you're 0 for 2 on challenges in a game, that's not a good process. Whatever that process isn't going to work. You talk about, Sweat and Dexter being off the field on the touchdown for Collins. You have key plays that, it's just kind of mind-boggling at times to me. He's pacing up and down the sideline kind of with a lifeless expression. When Caleb got hit out of bounds, I wish he would have gotten animated trying to talk to the refs. But there's just not a lot of that. And you guys were just talking a little bit about the Chargers situation, and I'll just kind of end with this. But, I know the Chargers have had a lot of draft capital they've invested on that O-line, but at the same time, if Jim Harbaugh was the head coach here, he would not allow an offensive line that looks the way that it does, that we have here. They wouldn't allow Caleb to go out under that. He would have pushed pulls. He would have made them make improvements on the O-line. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I think the coach just, he does a lot of things that a lot of bad coaches do. And that's what I'm getting worried about. I have faith that, they'll keep working through Caleb, but just kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts on that because, from what I've seen, Eberflus and his staff, it's looking the same as it's looked the last couple of years.
I think you can also be critical of how they handled the clock at the end of the first half. Like they allowed, you did not need to rush in the manner in which they rushed. You had second down, I think, and 46 seconds to go, knowing that cat on the other team can kick them from 70 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could have, if you were more self-aware, kind of bled that clock and left them with nothing. But they didn't do that.
You're right.
They scored with 40 seconds left, something like that, 36, 40 seconds.
And then it's both. It's that, and then it's player execution too on defense. But yeah, that's a great point. Here's Eberflus on the challenge situation. He's right. The caller made a great point.
Right. We've been really good with that. And the process is I do have somebody upstairs, and we're always looking at that. And we've been really good at challenges since I've been here. And last night we just were unfortunate. We missed on two of them. But again, going forward, those were two situations. One was a third down, third down and longer. And we thought it was a critical time. We didn't get a great look at it upstairs. So I decided to throw it there. And again, it didn't go our way that time. And then you're exactly right with that game-changing play. Again, we didn't get a great early enough look for it. So we ended up challenging that. But it was a turnover that would have been a huge play for our football team. And Kai almost had that one.
How about, first of all, the caller's right. They are 2 for 7 since Eberflus has been here. He says, we've been very good at this. He's won 2 challenges in 2+ years. He's 2 and 5 on challenges, 2 for 7. And how about just saying, hold me accountable. We need to be better. Those are 2 timeouts and challenges we should not have lost. One happened right in front of me. I had a better look with the naked eye than the referee, and I panicked and I threw the flag. And I should not have done that.
I don't know why you would reference your record with challenges as an excuse or as a defense for what transpired.
2 and 5 is not good. That's not a good record in anything.
No.
So when he says we've been good, and then how about just saying we need to be better?
Yeah.
I need to be better. I hold the flag. I threw the flag there. I get what he's saying about he wants to win game-changing challenges, not like when you challenge a 4th and 1 or like just a 1 yard thing.
I want to win all of my challenges, not just game-changing.
Yeah, but I understand what he's saying on game. But if you have no chance to win a game-changing challenge, who gives a crap? It could be a game-changing play, but if you have 0 shot to win it, you don't challenge it.
Lovey used to actually be fairly good at that. Like those questionable challenges, he would sometimes throw it because the situation was like that. And I never necessarily agreed with it, but Lovey sometimes came out on the better end of that. The problem was yesterday, you're making that challenge after you've already lost the challenge. So now you are compounding your issue because you're going to lose your timeout and you're not going to have an opportunity to challenge if you need to later in the game because you already blew the Stephon Diggs challenge, which was right in front of your face.
Well, and you made a good point, Meller. It looked like that Kyler Gordon kind of goaded him into throwing the flag.
Yeah, anybody was watching the broadcast.
I don't know if that's the case. I mean, maybe it's not.
Like
right.
He's not going to say that, I don't think. But if you watch the broadcast, you go back and watch as the play unfolds, Kyler Gordon gets back, and there's a little bit of time where he's walking along the line of scrimmage, and he's basically signaling to the sidelines he wants them to challenge it. Yeah. And then before C.J. Stroud snaps the ball, you can see Kyler Gordon is out of position. And I think it was Tank Dell who was in the slot on that play, who would have been running up the field if the snap actually doesn't get, halted because of the challenge. If that play goes off without a challenge, I think Kyler Gordon would have been made to look silly because he was calling for a challenge and not guarding his man.
Yeah, I mean, what you showed me upstairs on the film, it looks like you can't be 100% certain because you can't see when the flag was thrown. But it's a really good point that, and it was something that maybe the coach would be asked about, were you relying on your player, his emotional plea for you to challenge that? And that's part of being a strong head coach. You can't just make a decision because one of your really talented players is emotional about a play that he wants you to challenge. I mean, you have to be able to separate yourself from the emotion of your player. So I think it was weird that you reference how good we've been at this when it'd be like,
take the L.
Yeah.
Say, I need to be better. We need to clean that up.
Yeah, that's like the White Sox hitting coach saying, we've been good this year. We've been really good. We have a track record this year, really ripping the cover off the ball.
It's the Schriffen.
Right.
Oh, they're not as they're surprised we're this bad.
The opponent radio crew came up to me and they told me that I'm better on my challenges than a lot of people think.
This is not the coach's fault, but it will stick to the coach as well. The operational penalties, you can't have them. You can't have some of the stuff that was going on. There was a delay of game.
Oh, out of a timeout
that occurred after a timeout. You can't do it.
Caleb, again, that's I'll share with you the difference between Eberflus and Caleb, and Caleb's playing in his second game as far as accountability is concerned. I'll share that with you coming up next. Your phone calls 312-332-3776. Also, one national pundit giving a little heat towards the Bears' best player over body language. I've heard that before. We'll discuss all coming up.